versus buy has always been a difficult decision, but with AI, it's made it even more complex, especially since AI has actually changed where differentiation matters in your business, and then what baseline capabilities should be bought versus owned. And so first, I'm going to walk you through what the data actually says about build versus buy today, and then I'll provide a practical framework of when to choose build, when to choose buy, and then actually a hybrid approach that I've been doing with a lot of my clients as well. First, companies at a high level are actually shifting more towards buying than building. Now, the reason why is because AI performance is changing rapidly, which is one set, but also getting ROI really requires ongoing evaluation and ongoing optimization as well for a particular use case. The exception here is regulated industries because compliance is obviously super important, and this really does still lean more towards building and hybrid approaches rather than buying off the shelf. And the deployment data actually does back this up as well. Earlier this year, an MIT report found that 66% of buy decisions from vendors succeeded, where only 33% of internally built solutions succeeded. Not only that, the employee adoption of the vendor tools actually doubled. And so this is why we're seeing third-party AI applications being tested and put into production more quickly. Now, I don't want you to get the wrong impression that you should be building. This is actually not really the case for everybody. The goal is actually choosing the right thing to own. So you've probably seen a standard build versus buy framework before, and they'll include factors such as cost, time to market, or alignment. Now, AI does change these factors in a different way. And I'm going to highlight 3 that matters the most for generative AI implementation. First is the business strategy alignment. So AI makes business strategy and alignment more about core intellectual property, or having a core competitive advantage for a specific function. And so the question you should really be asking is, does this function represent a core intellectual property or a competitive advantage for my business? If the answer is yes, then typically building and hybrid approaches are actually better here, even if it is slower and more expensive. Next is really evaluating the uniquenesses of your requirements. Now, when working with a lot of clients, they actually do say a lot of, hey, we're very unique, we do things very, very differently here. And I would say that AI workflows do often feel unique, and that is true. But for that specific task or function, it's more about the variance itself. Now, this spans multiple different business functions and factors. You may have scalability requirements. You may have compliance risks that you need to have. But I would say, especially in my experience, a lot of companies do lean heavily into more customized work, where an off-the-shelf solution would probably get you about 80 or 90% there anyways. As then, instead of just buying, you can go into those hybrid approaches later on. Lastly is really evaluate your internal capabilities. And I would say this is probably the most misunderstood factor that I've seen. See, building AI isn't just the initial development process. It's also ongoing maintenance and support that is required going forward. And so the question you should be asking is, not only do I have the resources to build it, but do I also have the resources to continuously maintain it over time? And if the answer is no, buying is usually the safer path here. Now lastly, I touched on this hybrid approach a little bit, and it could be a potential middle ground for this. And I'm currently doing this with a couple of my clients right now, have been doing it in the past, but I would actually expect that you have probably done this in the past as well with other types of vendors outside of the AI industry. And so this could be 2 different ways. One is you build on top of an existing vendor solution, or you co-develop a solution simultaneously. In both, hybrid makes it so that you still need the speed, but you also need to have some ownership for the product. You can also upskill the teams, so whatever your development teams are, they can learn alongside with the best practices from the vendor. You can also negotiate lower costs for this by co-developing. You can add on those very much custom requirements for maybe internal compliance or those kinds of pieces. And it's usually a lot easier kind of building on top of a solution if the vendor allows you to do it. They build that 80% and then you build that last mile going forward. And this mitigates the downsides of both build and buy as well. But to high level summarize here, you should really be buying when speed matters and when it's more of a commodity use case. Build when the workflow is an actual competitive advantage for you for IP. And then hybrid when you need both speed and also ownership as well. Again, it's all very nuanced depending on your situation. But anyways, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.